Friends, I welcome you in the next lecture on functional analysis course. First, we will define what do we mean by linear transformation. Let L and L dash be linear spaces or vector spaces. The linear spaces or vector spaces. These are equivalent terms, linear or vector spaces. A function t from L to L dash is called linear transformation if it's called linear transformation if it satisfies this property t of alpha x plus beta y is equal to alpha tx plus beta ty for all scalars xy belong to L and for all vectors xy belong to L and all scalars alpha beta, all scalars alpha beta, they belong to some field where L is vector space over field F. I may write belongs to F where L is vector space or linear space over F. So this is first definition of linear transformation. Second definition of continuous linear transformation. So we'll define what do we mean by continuous linear transformation. As we are discussing continuity, we need to assure the concept of open sets or distance on the sets on which we are defining continuity. So continuous linear transformation. Let n and n dash be non-linear spaces. Let n and n dash be non-linear spaces. Hence they are metric spaces, and by continuity we mean same definition which you have studied in metric spaces of continuous functions. Let n and n dash be non-linear spaces. In bracket I will purposely write they are metric spaces or topological spaces as well. Let t from n to n dash be a linear transformation, or you can simply say linear function. Let t from n to n dash be a linear transformation or function be a linear transformation. T is said to be continuous. T is said to be continuous. Precisely I can say continuous on n, on the whole of domain. T is said to be continuous if xn converges to x in n. Note that we are taking n as metric space. A sequence xn converges to x in n implies that txn converges to tx in n dash for all x belongs to n. If this property gets satisfied at some particular point, say x0, then t will be continuous at point x0. Here we are stating that this holds for all x belongs to n. It means that t is continuous at all points of x and thus t is continuous on n. There are several other equivalent definitions of continuity which you have studied in metric spaces. You can use any one of these definitions. You can use epsilon delta definition, you can use continuity in terms of open and closed sets and so on. Here we are giving sequential definition of continuity. Whenever required, we will study different definitions or we will use them as per our need. Now we are going to study a theorem which will give equivalent definitions of continuity for linear transformation. Due to linearity, the definition of continuity is quite simplified. Here we will see 4 equivalent definitions of continuity for linear transformation. Let n and n dash be normed linear spaces. Let n and n dash be normed linear spaces. A function and let t from n to n dash be a linear transformation. Be a linear transformation. Then following statements are equivalent. Then following statements are equivalent. First statement, t is continuous. Continuous means it is continuous at all points of x. Second statement, t is continuous at origin. T is continuous at origin. You may replace origin by any specific point at origin. Third point is there is k greater than 0 such that norm of tx is less equal to k times norm of x for all x belongs to n. And fourth point is the image of unit n sphere, the image of unit n sphere in n, the image of unit n sphere in n is bounded. The image of unit n sphere in n is bounded. Image of unit n sphere in n under T, you may say, to be precise. So let us prove or let us establish the equivalence of these statements. We will prove it one by one. We will prove that first statement is equivalent to second, and then second is equivalent to third. Finally, third is equivalent to fourth. So let me explain the outline of the proof at the beginning. First, we will prove that 1 implies 2. 1 implies 2. Then we will prove 2 implies 1. So T is continuous. We begin with hypothesis, that is first statement. T is continuous. What this implies? T is continuous at all points of n. T is continuous at all points of n. In particular, it will be continuous. In particular, it will be continuous at point 0, that is origin. This implies T is continuous at origin, that is 0. 0 vector or 0 point of n. It is 0 vector. T is continuous at 0, which is origin. So first implies second is fairly simple. As T is continuous at all points, it will be continuous at a specific point, in this case 0. Next we will prove second implies first. So our hypothesis is T is continuous at origin, and we want to prove that T is continuous at all points. So let x be an arbitrary point of n. Let us begin with some arbitrary vector or point of n. Consider xn converges to x in n. This implies that xn minus x converges to 0 in n. Here 0 is 0 vector of n. Note that it is not a real number. It is 0 vector of vector space n. This implies T of xn minus x converges to T of 0 in n. Can you tell me the reason? The reason is our hypothesis. We are assuming second, T is continuous at origin. So reason is by hypothesis, or you may say since T is continuous at origin or at 0. Now use linearity. By linearity, we can write this as T of xn minus T of x, and since T is linear, you know the properties of linear transformation. What is T of 0? It is again 0 vector. Now this 0 is of 0 vector of n dash. There is a slight correction here. I should have written n dash. This is correct. Xn minus x converges to 0 in n, and T of xn minus x will converge to T0 in n dash. So this convergence takes place in metric space n dash. 0 is 0 vector of vector space n dash. And if you want to specify the reason, you may say since T is linear. So T of 0 is 0 as T is linear. And here also we are using the linearity. This implies that T of xn converges to Tx. T of xn converges to Tx in n dash. Thus what we proved, see, we began with xn converges to x in n, and we arrived at the conclusion that Txn converges to Tx in n dash. As x was arbitrary point of n, we can say this holds for all x belongs to n. And by definition of continuity, to be precise, by sequential definition of continuity, we conclude that T is continuous. So T is continuous, that is continuous at all points of n or continuous on n. So T is continuous. We proved the implication second implies first. This was our first that we proved. In second part we proved that second implies first. This is our conditional statement which we proved. In first we proved first implies second. Secondly we proved second implies first. Now we will prove third implication, third conditional statement. Second implies third. So go through this carefully. I would like to erase this part. Have a look at these statements which we have written. Let me erase this part of the proof. We will now prove second implies third. We are going to prove it by a contradiction. Assuming that T is continuous at origin, we have to prove or we have to establish the existence of constant K such that this property holds. As I mentioned, we are going to prove it by contradiction. So proof of third implication which we are proving, second implies third. Our hypothesis is this: T is continuous at origin and we want to prove this. Suppose on contrary, there is no constant K greater than 0 such that norm of Tx is less equal to K times norm of x for all x belongs to n. Then for each natural number, there is a vector xn such that norm of Txn is greater than n times norm of xn. Otherwise this n will be the required constant. Since this does not hold, since we are assuming that there is no such a constant, this statement is justified. This implies that norm of, by using linearity, 1 upon n norm of xn is norm of Txn is greater than 1. I have taken this n times norm of xn on left hand side of this inequality. By using linearity, I can consider this as a scalar and I can take this inside and use the linearity. So I could write this as T times xn upon n times norm of xn is greater than 1. So this implies norm of Tyn is less than 1 is greater than 1. As this holds for every yn, we can say that, let me specify what is yn here. You can guess what is yn. Xn upon n times norm of xn. This is yn. So as this holds for every n, we can definitely say norm of t by n does not converge to 0, because norm of every vector is greater than 1. It can, by no way it can converge to 0. Okay. However, what about norm of yn? Converges to 0, because 1 upon n converges to 0 as n tends to infinity. This contradicts our hypothesis. What was our hypothesis? Second statement. This contradicts our hypothesis. This contradicts our hypothesis that T is continuous at origin. T is continuous at origin. Hence, there must be a constant satisfying this. Norm of Tx is less equal to k times norm x for all x belongs to n. So this completes the proof of third implication. All these implications or conditional statements are easy to prove. Just we have to use definition of continuity. Next, we will prove the fourth implication, the converse of what we proved now. So third implies second is our fourth implication, which we will prove. A conditional statement we are going to prove. Third implies second, converse of the earlier conditional statement. What is our hypothesis? That there is a constant satisfying this, and we have to prove that T is continuous at origin. So it is fairly simple to prove this by using epsilon delta definition of continuity. We can use to prove this, or we can simply adjust this constant. I mean, by using this constant we can easily establish. So let us assume that let there be a constant k, let there be a constant k greater than 0 such that norm of Tx is less equal to k times norm of x for all x belongs to n. We want to prove that T is continuous at origin. So in order to prove this, we'll use sequential definition of continuity. Let xn converge to 0 in n. This will imply, now there are two approaches. We can use definition of convergence of sequence and then establish this. Alternatively, we can apply the linearity to conclude this. So this implies that for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists, say, a natural number n0, such that whenever n is greater equal to n0, distance between xn and 0, that is norm of xn, is less than epsilon. I could adjust this epsilon as epsilon by k, and that will give me the required result, epsilon by k. This implies, you note that k is positive. There exists n0 belongs to n such that I multiply both sides of this inequality by k. So it becomes k times norm of xn is less than epsilon. This implies for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists n0 belongs to n such that n is greater equal to n0. Now use the hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Norm of tx is less equal to k times norm x. So by using hypothesis, this is greater equal to norm of tx, in this case norm of txn is less than epsilon. You may specify the reason, since norm of tx is less equal to k times norm of x for all x. X is here xn in this case. This implies, by using definition of convergence of sequence, we can say that this is equivalent to saying that txn converges to, this I could write it as norm of txn minus 0 or t0. So txn converges to 0 in n dash. See, we began with the fact that xn converges to 0 in n, and we arrived at the fact that txn converges to 0 in n dash, or t0 you may say, because t0 equals to 0. You may say t0 as well, since t of 0 equals to 0. Okay. So this proves that, so t is continuous at origin. This proves that t is continuous at origin. The second last implication which we will prove is third implies 4. So our next implication, fifth implication, is third implies 4. Third implies 4. It is fairly simple to prove this. We want to prove that the image of unit n sphere in n is bounded. So let me specify the unit n sphere in n. It is the set of those vectors in n whose norm is less equal to 1. So this is unit n sphere in n, and we have to prove that T of S is bounded. So in order to prove this, we will make use of our hypothesis, norm of Tx is less equal to k times norm x. If x is equal to 0, then we are clearly done that norm of Tx will be less equal to k. I'll take let x belongs to S. I'll consider two cases. First case, x is equal to 0, and in this case clearly norm of Tx, better let me write this in next line. In this case clearly norm of Tx, as t is linear, this is equal to 0 and it is less equal to k. Second case, x is not equal to 0. As x belongs to S, norm of x is less equal to 1. This implies multiply both sides of this inequality by norm t, by constant k. So this will give me k times norm of x is less equal to k. This gives me, use hypothesis, k times norm x is greater or equal to norm Tx. So by hypothesis what we will get, norm of Tx is less equal to k, by hypothesis. So thus from first and second case what we conclude, thus norm of Tx is less equal to k for all x belongs to S. This proves that the image of unit n sphere n is bounded because it is bounded by k. This whole relation holds for all x belongs to S. Now the final implication which we are going to prove is fourth implies third. It is 6. Fourth implies third. So let the image of unit n sphere, let the image of unit n sphere be bounded by k. Then norm of Ty will be less equal to k for all y belongs to S. This is the meaning of the fact that image of unit n sphere is bounded. Then norm of Ty is less equal to k for all y belongs to S. Call this as statement star. Say this is star statement star. We will refer to this. Now we consider two cases. Let x belongs to n. Now we consider two cases. First case, x is equal to 0. In this case, clearly norm of Tx, since t is linear, x is equal to 0, then norm of Tx will be 0, which is less equal to k, which I can write it as, in fact, this is less, okay, so I want to prove that it is less equal to k times norm x. So this is 0 and I could write it as k times 0, which is equal to k times norm of x. So we get the equality when x is equal to 0. Second case, x is not equal to 0. In this case, take y is equal to x upon norm x, and y clearly then belongs to S, because what is norm of f? Norm of y is 1, that's why y belongs to S. By star, what we get? As y belongs to S, we get that norm of Ty is less equal to k. This implies norm of Tx upon norm x is less equal to k, is less equal to k. And by using linearity of t, we observe that this is equal to what? This, if you take 1 upon norm x outside, you will get norm of Tx less equal to k, and this implies norm of Tx is less equal to k times norm x for all x which are not equal to 0. Thus, in first case and second case, we observe that norm of Tx is less equal to k times norm x for all x. Hence, we arrive at the conclusion that the constant k satisfies this property. Norm of Tx is less equal to norm kx. Thank you.